Hey! Alright, everyone. I just got finished doing the mystery experience box for April. Oh my gosh! It was so good. It's so good. It took me literally all day long to do it. I couldn't even take a break. I just had to do it. I had to do it. I took a break to eat lunch and that was about it. Okay, so as you saw in my vlog, how I opened it up and I got all these different things. And spoiler alert, I am going to give probably hints away and stuff like that. So if you have not done the box yet, and if you don't want answers, then do not continue to watch this video. I'm just forewarning you. I don't want to spoil it for you. And I will say, when I started it, I got blocked the very first thing that you're supposed to do. Okay, so here's the premise. You are resident 11, right? You are in this facility and you're trying to escape. So that is the premise of this box this month. And oh my gosh, it is so good. Okay, so the first thing that I did when I got the box is I read the newspaper front to back, because that's the first thing you do. You look for any place that has phone numbers or websites, which they were the same websites that was in last month's box. So I went back to them though just to refresh my memory on the. But I got stuck. From the very beginning I got stuck, because when you're going along, you're getting a letter from Mr. X telling you that you need to get out of this facility. Let me find the letter. Okay, so like here's the newspaper. It wasn't as thick as it was last month, but it's okay. So here's the newspaper and everything. Right, so I read that front to back. And then, okay. It tells you in the letter, well, I don't have it with me, or it's not on here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, so Mr. X tells you that you're going to have to solve the challenges you encounter to be able to get out of it. And it tells you to read the newspaper. Then it tells you, so that's what I did. So I read the newspaper. Then it tells you to read the notes by Resident 11, which I did. And to get out, it's like, what is the number to get out of the room? And I'm like, okay, well, 11:26, because that's the time. And sure enough, well, it doesn't really tell you that that's what it is, because then you just flip it over and it says that they got out of the box. So it gives you a little story, or out of their little cubicle thingy. So it tells you the story, how to do that. Then what you do is you're going down this hall, right? And you know, then you have all these little puzzles that you have to figure out. Okay? And again, you have your meta, here it is, your meta puzzle here. And I'm like, okay, it's a word a word search. So I'm like, I bet you any words that we find, we're going to have to circle in this thing, right? So the very first thing that you're supposed to do is you're outside of your room and there's a computer, so you're supposed to put in a password. Well, I couldn't figure that one out. I was stumped from the very beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, because I had this puzzle, I had this puzzle, and I had this puzzle. So I didn't know which puzzle I needed to start with to figure out how to get that password. But I was like, okay, I mean, I spent like maybe, no joke, like 15 minutes trying to figure it out. And I was like, you know what? I'm moving on. So then I went to the next thing. And with that, there's only 2 words. And that's when I was like, okay. And then I saw them on the crossword puzzle, on the word search. So I circled them. And that's all I had to do there. And I'm like, okay. So then I moved on to Office 1. got stumped. I mean, like, stumped hard. Hard, y'all. It was hard. Because I know that I needed this, right? And it said I need in the photo of the doctor. So, I mean, I was trying everything, man. I mean, I spent the most majority of the time on this. I bet I spent over an hour trying to figure this out. Because I went back to the DNA website. I'm just trying to figure out, is there something? I knew, you know, that something had to do with the mouse pad and all these letters on here. I counted up, you know, like how many pairs they could have been, and they said she was 30 something, so I'm trying, there's 12 pairs that really could work here because only AT and GC pair together. So there's only 12 of those, and then they said in the description that she was 30 something. So, I mean, I tried 1230, 1231, 1232. I tried all that. Nope, that's not it. I was like, dang gummit. Then I noticed she had a pen in her pocket, and so I didn't bring the pen in, but so on the pen there's some there's numbers on it. So I'm like, what is that? So I tried the numbers, no. And they had little dots, and I was like, well, there's dots all in the newspaper. And then there's this page here with all these numbers on it. I'm like, maybe I'm supposed to mark off all these numbers that I find, and maybe that's the passcode, you know? And that didn't work either. So I was like, okay, so I skipped it. I was like, okay, I got to move on because I'm just not getting it. This has got to go. All right. So then I went to the ward room number 3. And again, they're just words that you circle in your word search. And I was like, okay. Then the holographic lab. Okay, I went in there and I was like, okay, I got this one. And it was on this card that I found. I mean, this was the very first clue that I figured out. Because it's just numbers with 2 numbers missing. And so it's you know, you pretty much just add the numbers together to get the numbers that are missing. So I knew the answer to that. So I put that in, and then a report comes on, because you put it in on your computer. You go to your computer, you go to this website, you put in this password, and then this report comes up, right? And so on the end of it, it could have a password or code word or something on the bottom, and you circle that in your word search. All right, the code word was, you know, on that one. So then I moved on to ward room number 4, and again, that's just a word that I needed to circle. Then it's the genomics lab, and again, just another word to circle. And then office number 2, I realized, you know, he likes jazz and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, well, there's this matchbook from the jazz company, and it's got Constance's name in it, so I'm sure that's the password, and it was. But what's so funny, let me tell y'all, when I was so stumped and I couldn't figure it out, I actually used the magnifying glass, and I saw that there was a telephone number on here. I called the number, and it was a real business. It was a real business. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong number. I'm like, I bet you they're going to be getting tons of phone calls. So, but anyway, that was pretty funny. So then I got another word to circle on the bottom of that page, of that report. Because every time you put in a password, you get a report, right? And so, yeah, so you get a report. Okay, then I had to go to the imaging lab. And with that one, you know, after you read everything, it says that, no, that's not that one. Which one? No. Oh, wait. Where did I have to use this one? The data center. Oh, I've not gotten there yet. Okay, imaging lab. Okay, that was another one that I was a little stumped on it too. And that's what it looked like, right? So I was like, dang it. So I'm like, okay, there's letters. You know, I mean, not letters. There's numbers. Is there a pattern? I couldn't figure out a pattern, so I had to put that to the side, okay? So far I have the outside of the room, outside of resident 11's room, outside of the office, and now the imaging center. I have not figured those out yet. I can't figure them out. So then I get to the data center one, and this is what you get when you go there. Well, I noticed that there were numbers up at the top, and you probably can't see them, but there's numbers up here. There's 4 numbers. And I was like, okay, it's kind of like a maze. So I just went with the numbers and followed through like it was a maze to get, because there's letters down here, right? To get the password. And then so I wrote down the letters and I put them in exactly as I wrote them down, and that wasn't it. And I was like, so then I turned them around to 1, 2, 3, 4 and put them in that order, and sure enough, that was the password. And again, another report came up, and if there was a code word, I circled that into my word search. Okay, so now I'm really stumped, and I'm like getting really frustrated, I'm not gonna lie, because I've already spent hours on this. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I knew I was so close. I always feel that. I'm like, I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm so close. So then I went back to this page right here. And I did the cryptogram. Okay, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is telling me, because after I had already done the ones that I could, I knew, okay, well, there's 3 left. And obviously, this goes with the doctor's office, right? Obviously, that goes with that. So that's not going to go with outside of my room, right? And then I was like, and then obviously this one goes to the imaging lab. That's why I wrote that up there. So obviously this has got to be my code for outside my room. And then after I did the cryptogram, sure enough, it says resident 11 computer screen password. But I'm like, okay, well, but I don't have enough of these letters marked out. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. So luckily though, I go online and here's the hints and solutions. And luckily there was a walkthrough. And I was like, praise be the baby Jesus. It doesn't give you the answer. Well, some of it does, but some of it does not. And I try not to look at the answer. I just want a hint, right? I don't want them to tell me the answers. I want to try to figure it out for myself, but I needed a hint. So and that's when they were like, this is a magic square. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just added up one of the columns and got the answer. And of course, that was my password. So then I got that report. And it's so cool. The reports are awesome, y'all, because it tells a story, right? So now this is my first report. So I can start from the very beginning because you really want to read them in the order that they're on this paper, you know? So at least I have that one. So now it's time for the doctor's office. And I'm like, I know this mouse pad has something to do with it. And the pen with the numbers, it's got to. Now that I know that this is a magic square, the numbers on that pen mean nothing on this square, right? So they've got to mean something on this pad. So again, I read the walkthrough because I was stumped. And he was like, and it was like, they're rows and columns. And the numbers on the pins are your coordinates. I was like, okay. So then I figured out the password that way. Now I will say sometimes the passwords, they're case sensitive, so I had to like put it in a few times, but it finally got through and I was like, yes! So I got another report in another word so that I could circle it in my meta puzzle, right? So then the only thing that was left was the imaging lab dude. I mean, I even folded him in half. This is kind of works somehow, you know? And then again, I looked on the walkthrough, I'm not gonna lie, I looked through the walkthrough and they're like and I had the numbers already written, and they're like, each number represents the number in the alphabet. I was like, ugh. Okay, I didn't think of that. So then I wrote down the numbers, and I will say there is a little bit of an error here because this has 20, and it was supposed to be an R, but that ends up being a T because the password was actually chromosome 46, but it's a CHT. So, but I mean, once I figured out that that made no sense, and they're probably talking about chromosome, that's what I inputted, and that was the answer. And again, because chromosome 46 is right here in my meta puzzle in the word search. So I'm like, they just, you know, it's just a goof. I mean, they're human. No big deal. I mean, it wasn't like it was the end of the world. You know, I figured it out. So no biggie. So I got the final report. So now it all came together, right? And it is so cool. Oh, God. Y'all, I cannot describe how cool the story is. Dudes, this, apparently the guy that does this, now that I'm reading more on Facebook about him, he's like an award-winning novelist. Okay, so he writes novels for a living. So it's so cool that he does this for us. And it was just so cool. I cannot tell you how cool this is. Was I a little frustrated? I'm not going to lie. Yes, I was a little, because I couldn't find the hints, right? Because I was going to but it was all my error. It was my error though, because I was going to the wrong place on Facebook. I was just going to, I wasn't going to the discussion group. I was going to another group that I had joined. So I didn't go to this one, but they were helpful on the other group that I was on, and they were like, well, the file is up. It went live a couple of hours ago. And I'm like, well, I'm not seeing it. And they're like, it's in the discussion group. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So finally, I just grabbed this card and I input the website in the address, and it popped up. And I was like, duh, I feel like an idiot. Here it is. And so that's when I found the files for the walkthrough to help me out with the rest of the puzzle, or rest of the mystery. So, I mean, like I said, my frustration was partly my fault because I didn't go here when I really needed to. So, but the story itself, I'm not going to give much of that away, because to me, I love doing all this sleuthing and everything. That was so cool too. But let me just tell you. Okay, so at the very end, you circle all the words, and then whatever letters are left is the final password to get out, right? And so you input it all, and then you get out. And that was a little tricky too, because I was doing either all caps or all lowers, and it ended up being that I needed to do caps, lowers, and caps. So, like I said, I don't want to give too much away. You know, I don't want to give the total answers out. But I do wanted to, to give the hints in case those people are stumped, and don't want to go on Facebook to figure it out. But anyway, but the very final report after you exit, I am still reeling. Y'all, I feel like I have read a freaking horror novel. Not a mystery novel, but like a psychological freaking horror, terror. Because, okay, so I'm going to let you know the very end. So once you get out, right, you realize that you're at the Archon Genomics Lab. Okay, that's where you're at. So this peppy little nice person comes to you, and they're like, oh my gosh, we only got so long before you can get out. And so she's been the person who's been helping Resident 11, escape. And it's a guy. And she tells him it's this doctor that is supposed to have been murdered a year ago, right? Like, you're this doctor and you've been exposed to substance X, and so your memory is gone and you can get violent and da-da-da-da-da. So she explains all this to him, right? Then it goes black. And then you see the final report. And this is where I get the goosebumps and the tearing in the eyes. Oh. Apparently, Resident 11, this was his 264th attempt to get out, right? It is not this doctor who has been murdered, because he couldn't have been. Because when I said that, I was like, what? He couldn't be this. He's been murdered. It was in the newspaper that this doctor is actually, his body was found. He's been murdered. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then it was like, Resident 11 is still experiencing hallucinations and violent fits and memory loss and blah, 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 blah. And, but we're getting ready for trial number 265. See, oh, isn't that freaky to think that you were this person and you're stuck in this room and all you are doing is trying to get out, like, every single day. Oh, it is terrifying. But it is so good. So good. It is so good, y'all. Oh, so oh my gosh, if you love mysteries and if you love sleuthing, if you love logical thinking, because I don't know why I didn't think when I knew they were numbers. See, everything was like right in my face. It was like, right, you know how a word gets on the very tip of your tongue? And you're like, oh my God, I know that word. But you can't quite think of it to say it. That is how I felt on these ones that I got stumped on, right? I'm like, I know this. I know this. But it was like, you know, like Magic Square has been recessed in the back of my mind. I haven't done a Magic Square in forever, you know? And like when I knew that like on this body scan that they were numbers, I should have immediately went, okay, alphabet. But you know, the more that I do this, I think I will jump to that conclusion a lot faster because, you know, I'm not used to doing these kind of puzzles. Because, you know, but the minute I knew what this was. The minute I saw this, I knew it was a cryptogram. I was like, okay, that is a cryptogram. I know how to do cryptograms, and I got that sucker done in like 5 minutes. You know, maybe not even that, but I was like, I know that's a cryptogram. But I was like, that looks so familiar. I'm like, but usually in a Magic Square, one number is missing, right? Because you're supposed to figure out that one number. Well, in this case, it was already filled for you. You just had to figure out what the sum was. So I was like, and again, I knew these letters were gonna do something. I needed something. So yeah, but it was so good, y'all. Again, it's a little expensive. It's like $35 a month. May even be more than that. It might be almost $40 because I think it's $35 and then $5 for shipping, or you know, $34.98 and $4.95 or whatever. So it could be closer to $40. It's either $35 or $40. I can't remember. But to me, it is so worth it. I mean, this is my entertainment. I've budgeted for this. I love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. And I'm so glad that he does do hints and walkthroughs because they really do help, you know. And going on, now that I know this Facebook discussion group exists, I can always go on there next time if he doesn't have the files up to go, hey, anybody got a hint for this? You know, I just want a hint. Can you give me a hint? Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so good. So I highly, 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 highly recommend it. I will put and I'm not being sponsored by them at all. Oh, I wish I could be. I wish I could get a free box every month. That would be awesome. But I'm not, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. I don't mind paying the $40 or $35, whatever it is. I don't mind paying it at all. I love it. I love it. But then again, I'm a geek like this. I love mysteries and like just reading the stories too. I'm telling you, this guy is so good. He's so good. So anyway, so I will put the link in the description if you're interested in going. They only do a limited number of boxes a month. So if you want to be subscribed, you need to get on the list, I guess. So yeah, but Sector 7, y'all. Sector 7. Woo! Lord Jesus. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this helped if you were if you were thinking of getting the box or if you were a little bit stumped. I hope I didn't give away too much, but I did put that disclaimer in. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye, y'all. Be good to one another. Bye.